All good? Beautiful. All right, we got the kombucha dished out. What flavor did we try? Oh, right on. Passion fruit. Sorry, I get a kick out of this. Now with 20% more mango. All right, today we're here to talk about women's health. I think this is the 5th time I've given this presentation. I finally started to identify it by putting the year on it. So this is Women's Health 2026. This workshop outlines how to nourish a female body and in doing so, remove the toxins that hurt it. Hey, our Zoom people, good to see you. A couple of the basics. Drew, that's me, has worked with thousands of women on achieving greater health. Second thing, the amount of misinformation on women's health is staggering. One size does not fit all. And terms like beauty are used to elicit an emotional response. So I won't be using the term beauty in anything that I say today, because that's just a sales pitch. I want to start by talking about the top 3 troublemakers that I see for ladies. And after we go over those things, I want to go into a couple of things we can use for different body parts just to nourish them up. First, these toxins, these troublemakers, are like friends that talk behind your back. You think they're nice, and you might even like it when they're around, but they are messing up your life. First one is fragrances, and I got a bunch of info about fragrances on the board that I want to go over. Fragrance. This term originally meant a plant or plant extract was added to enhance the smell of a product. In our modern world, there are 80,000 different chemicals that can be legally added to beauty products, and many of them, welcome, are chemical fragrances. These chemicals mimic hormones. Repeated use of these products results in unhealthy signaling to the thyroid, the pituitary, and other parts of your endocrine system. I'm going to draw some things for you. So, when we're talking about fragrances, one of the biggest deals is that they will mimic hormones inside of the body, especially thyroid hormones. In a woman's body, the thyroid is a little bit more sensitive to hormonal fluctuations than a man's body. That's part of the reason this is a big deal for ladies. So let's go through and let's fill some of these numbers in. Every day your body says, I need to make a certain amount of hormones to be healthy. Okay? Do me a favor, Allie, pick a number between 1 and 10.
6.
Perfect. So every day the body says, I need to make 6 pounds of hormones to be healthy. We put some fragrance on our body. Okay, we put these chemicals that mimic hormones. Let's say you just do 2 spritzes a day. Okay? Your body goes, oh, actually, I only need to make 4 pounds of hormones now, because the fragrance mimicked 2 pounds of the hormone. But that's not the entire body that feels that way. The body goes, I expected 6 pounds of hormone. You gave me 2 pounds. I'm only going to make 4 pounds of it. And the body goes, but wait a minute, 2 of those pounds were not legit hormone. I can't actually use those things to be well. So after 1 day of using fragrance, your body is down 2 pounds of hormone. Does that part make sense so far? Okay. And then after day 2, let's say the same thing happens on day 2. Your body expects 6 pounds of hormones. It gets faked out on 2 of them. So after day 2, it's not just 2 anymore. Now we're up to 4 pounds that we're missing. Day 3, it goes up to 6 pounds. Do we see where this is going? So day in and day out, the body gets this fragrance applied to it. And the body eventually gets the message that says, hey, you actually don't need to make as much hormone as you thought you did. And the thyroid goes, great, I was getting tired anyways. I'll just stop producing as much hormone. That all makes sense? Here's the outcome of doing that. These common symptoms that we see with thyroid. Okay? Thinning hair, dry skin or easily irritated skin, nails aren't as strong as they could be, mood fluctuations, trouble focusing, exactly, libido issues, your metabolism slows down, you have more trouble regulating your body temperature, your bowels don't move as energy, and you don't have as much energy. I have never met a woman using fragrance who didn't have at least 3 of these symptoms. And one of the first things I bring up to them is I'm like, hey, just so you know, your body thinks it's getting hormone, but it's getting faked out, and you're creating a hormonal deficit because you're tricking the thyroid into thinking you don't need so much of it. This is not at one particular span age-wise. This is at any age, whether it's a 12-year-old girl or a 60-year-old woman, whatever. The body is getting messed with because these fragrances mimic hormones. Questions coming to mind about fragrances?
Just, is there any specific type of fragrance that is safe, like an essential oil type of a fragrance?
Beautiful question. Is there some kind of fragrance I can use that isn't going to mess with me? Yeah. Do you remember the number of the Wednesday weekly live stream where we did Bethany from Be Divine? We got a video link we can send you. There's a local aromatherapist. Her name's Bethany. Beth. She's wonderful. And she does all natural stuff. So you can still smell good. And the things that she's using don't mess. They don't fake hormones. They don't mimic hormones. That makes sense? Yeah. So there's absolutely ways to still smell good. I don't want people to smell bad by any means. Without messing with you. Yeah. Good question. Other questions coming up. This thing Lori printed out that I like to remind people of. Anything you can smell is inside your body. You don't have scent receptors on the outside of your body. So if you can smell something, it is in you. Fragrances and a lot of different cleaners, soaps, and sprays, they don't actually freshen the air. They just mask odors by filling your nose with a chemical that your liver has to deal with, and it disrupts your hormones and it messes with your health. I wish I could say fragrances deodorized, actually cleaned something out of the air. They don't. They just cover things up, often at the cost of your health. So that's the number one thing I see mess with women at any age is fragrances. All right, next on the list. Tap water. Oh man, this one bums me out. I'm naturally a thirsty dude. Tap water used to be one of the more difficult things to explain to people because so many of us drank from the tap or the hose growing up. Show of hands if you drank from the hose growing up. Yeah, right? I tried not to. I intentionally tried to. I thought it was the coolest thing on earth. I can keep playing. I don't have to go inside. I can just grab water out here. So let's settle this. Tap water used to be higher quality. In our modern world, water purification plants do not remove many prescriptions. I'm going to say that again. The water purification plants do not remove all prescriptions from our water. The most common offender is birth control. Every glass of city tap water comes with a small dose of birth control. This has become a problem as birth control was used more often for a wider variety of issues. So birth control was first developed just before the 70s. Number of women using it and the potency of birth control was much lower. Nowadays, it's used if we have any kind of irregular cycle issue. It's also used for birth control. Sometimes it's even used for acne concerns for young women. There's a lot more application of birth control in our modern world. The doses within the birth control, it's also a higher level of hormone per pill. So those two factors combined with it not getting cleaned out of our water is a problem. So let's look at this. Here is our very crude drawing of the lady. Okay. She's doing okay, but she could probably have some more shoulder muscles, right? So she decides to take birth control for whatever reason. No judgment. She decides to take it. She urinates, and the birth control goes out of her body, and it goes down the toilet, and it makes its way to a large body of water. Okay, let's say it's like Lake Michigan. And ultimately, the city water supply comes out of that lake and goes to the purification plant. Okay, so we're going to purify the water here. The birth control came with the water into the lake, goes through the tube into the purification. But what comes out of there and eventually goes to your home is your home, front door, nice little window so you got some sunlight. When you are brushing your teeth or taking a shower, when you are doing laundry and all that stuff, birth control ends up coming through. Not quite as strong of a dose as what the person initially took, but it passes through all these stages because the lake can't remove birth control from itself, and the water purification facilities can't remove all the birth control from it. So it ends up coming into your home and into your water supply. Okay? That's the issue here. Now, I'm pointing out birth control because that's one that was actually measured. There was an interesting study conducted comparing birth control levels in tap water in Europe versus America. And then what they compared was the average testosterone level of men aged 17 to 25 in the same parts of Europe and America. And on average, European males in that age range had higher levels of testosterone. And what they theorized in the study was it was because in Europe there is less of this birth control going into the water supply, because less women take birth control in Europe. The birth control that is in Europe is of a lower potency, and the purification facilities use different technology. There's a bunch of factors. This is what we're up against. Okay. Questions coming to mind?
Any suggestions how to filter water once it's in our home, like showering or reverse osmosis system?
Yeah, it's a good question. How can we counter this with purification? A whole house water filter is a really good start. I'm going to recommend one that has charcoal in it. Multiple stage filters, sometimes you'll see a 7-stage or a 10-stage filter, is what I'd recommend because that's going to grab more of the junk. The ultimate solution, though, is setting up your body so that it easily removes birth control from it, because we're never going to be able to filter out all of it at the levels that currently come through.
How do you do that? How do you set your body up?
We're going to talk about that. Yeah, when we get to the liver part in here, we're going to talk about that. Yeah. To my well water drinkers, I haven't left you out. Many pesticides are designed to penetrate the ground. This results in the chemicals finding their way into our groundwater and wells. And many of these chemicals kill the beneficial bacteria in our body that help mood regulation and brain function. This is a big deal. So if I scrub off BC and I take the lady out of the equation, the water supply has the chemicals from the modern farming. They do not get removed because we're talking about well water. There's no purification facility in the first place. And it ends up making its way into our house because it comes right up through our well water. Again, the solution is not to pretend that we're ever going to stop modern farming techniques. It's ridiculous. That machine is in motion. There's too much money behind it. What we can do is set up our bodies to have the easiest time possible removing that junk so it doesn't mess with us as much. Questions on tap water?
No, I think they were answered that our filtration systems aren't really doing the trick.
Yeah. The dream is that the filtration system could take all that out. It would involve getting a whole house water distiller, which means having a giant pressurized tank that is constantly looping water to purify it in your house. They are between $25,000 and $50,000, and the maintenance of them is an additional cost. For most people, that is completely unrealistic. So the idea instead is to set this thing up so that it doesn't get messed with, And so when we go on vacation, we're not like, oh, I'm not going to take a shower at the hotel because I'm worried about the whatever in the water. Cool. All right, let's keep going. Number 3 is cortisol. Who's heard the term cortisol before? Yeah? Oh, good. Okay. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and it is unavoidable. That's the bad news. The good news is how many different ways we can support the body to have a healthier response to stress, thus reducing cortisol. Cortisol has a greater impact on women's physiology than a man's. This may explain why women are more drawn to physical activities that do not increase cortisol as much, like yoga or walking, especially with friends, and low intensity aerobics. The more intense the exercise, the more likely we're going to have a cortisol surge afterwards. So one of the things that I've noticed in working with ladies is that they are drawn to physical activity. They still want to exercise, but it's usually not very intense weightlifting. It's more commonly yoga, walking with friends. Being with friends helps reduce cortisol. Kind of interesting to think they're pairing those two things. Maybe unintentionally, but it still has the benefit. The idea being that they still want to be fit and physically well, but they don't want so much cortisol. When cortisol goes up, it is more difficult to use blood glucose. Then there is a huge cascade that comes after that. So your blood sugar level, you ate some food, you got some fuel in your bloodstream, your cortisol goes up for whatever reason, whatever the stress is. Makes it more difficult for your body to use what is already in your bloodstream. The outcome of that is you are more likely to see that your triglycerides go up on your blood work. You're more likely to have weight gain. And you're more likely to have fatigue because one of your fuel sources is more difficult to use. So you're going to gas out quicker. This has a greater influence on a woman's body than a man's body. There's all sorts of things that can elevate stress levels. So instead of pretending that we're just going to avoid stress, what an impossible task. What we want to do is make sure that we are doing things to have a healthier response to the stressors. Now, everybody in the room raised their hand when I brought up cortisol. Do you have questions about cortisol? There was some baseline of knowledge that we had already attained. It's pretty popular on social media right now too, which helps. All right, so those are the 3 most common things. It's the fragrances that mimic hormones and tell your body they don't have to make hormones. It's the tap water that comes with hormones and other chemicals that mess with your body, especially your gut. When you mess with the gut, you mess with the brain. And then cortisol. We're never going to get rid of stress. Something's always going to be there to stress us out. We want to change the way we respond to stress. Now I want to talk about some body parts here. All right, first one is uterus. This is an interesting concept. Not everybody's aware of this. Everybody eliminates toxins via 4 different pathways. You can sweat them out through your skin, you can breathe them out through your lungs, you can move your bowels, or you can urinate. The uterus gives women one of their superpowers. You notice how I said one of their superpowers? Okay. It is a 5th path for toxin elimination. Women are also capable of detox via menstruation, and that's the good news. The bad news is that if one of the other 4 pathways becomes dysfunctional, the uterus may try to pick up the slack. Uterus is designed for uterine work, not for the work of other body parts. And that's why it's common to find metals, fungus, bacteria, chemicals, and excess levels of hormones inside the uterus. So if we got our skin getting rid of junk and we got our lungs getting rid of junk, we got our bowel doing some of that work, and we have our kidneys doing some of that work, if one of those goes offline, what is likely to happen if the skin is out of commission, it's going to send its work over to the uterus. And the uterus wants to help out because this whole body is all one team. It's all trying to work together, but it's not designed to do the work of the skin. So the well-being of the uterus is going to get compromised because of that. So one of the big deals in helping out a uterus is getting in front of the detox issue, making sure that we're nourishing skin, lungs, bowel, and kidneys so that they never have to share their workload with the uterus. Does that make sense? It's a bunch of ways to nourish a uterus too. So if you already have issues, uterine issues, there's Cataplex ACP by standard process, big time anti-inflammatory. For ladies dealing with cramps and like heavy bloat when they're cycling, this is great. There's Cramplex that's specifically for cramps. There's an herb called Schizandra. This doesn't just help with hormone production, it's also really good liver food. My beloved Spanish black radish. Here it is. My all-time favorite is my desert island supplement. If I could only have one supplement on earth, it'd be Spanish black radish, because it helps get junk out of the uterus and it provides folate and sulfur, two nutrients that are needed for uterine health. And then there's a product called Utrophin PMG. It's specifically minerals and proteins for the uterus, very anti-inflammatory, helps the functioning of the uterus. Every lady that I work with that's working on conception, I put on Utrophin PMG just to make sure baby's first apartment is like set up and nourished up and ready to go. Have you not heard me call it baby's first apartment before? It's just a temporary living situation. It's not a... Questions on the uterus? Okay. Next one I want to talk about are ovaries. The job of ovaries is to store eggs and produce some hormones. Each month, the ovaries alternate which one releases an egg. It's possible to have dysfunction in one ovary and not the other. Many of the nutrients needed by the uterus are also needed by the ovaries, and the most common stressors I see in ovaries are metals, fungus, vitamin E deficiency, and a zinc and copper imbalance. Very crude drawing of the female reproductive system. We got an ovary on this side, we got an ovary on this side, we got the uterus right in the middle. If the right ovary releases an egg in January, then in February, the left ovary takes a turn, and in March, it goes back to righty. And they bounce back and forth. I try to bring this up as often as possible because a lot of women just don't know this. Oh, okay. It's really important to know. Some women have even reported to me, they're like, oh, this month was righty. Righty dropped an egg. I had some sensation just on that side. Or it was lefty's turn this month or whatever. When women aren't sure of it, and especially when I'm working on fertility or conception cases, I'm asking women, please pay attention to your pelvic region. You will get some indication often of some activity more so on one side versus the other side. It's really easy for one ovary to be stressed out and not the other ovary to be stressed out for a long list of reasons. So what I see also is really common with a lot of cycling ladies is that every other month they have a lousy menstrual cycle. And that's when I go, hey, it's just one of them. Maybe righty's a troublemaker and lefty's all good. That makes sense? There's a really sweet family that comes to see us. They have 4 daughters and they do homeschooling. And the mom pulled me aside after one of the visits and she said, you can say no to this, but I'd really like to have you involved. We're at the part where our oldest, we have to do the sex ed segment of the homeschooling. Could you help us with the anatomy part? No, absolutely. I'd be more than happy to. And I brought up the alternating turns thing, and the mom was like, that wasn't even in the textbook. Thanks for bringing that up. I would have loved to know that before.
Well, I can remember back when that was applied to me and not realizing it, but always knowing distinctly that I was feeling things on one side or the other, but just never put two and two together or
Gotcha.
asked about it or anything. But it's clear to me the memories of that.
That's why I like to bring this
Interesting to know.
stuff up.
Yeah.
Because plenty of women that I meet have the same thing where they're like, yep, I saw that pattern in my life. Didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
Nobody said there's an alternating turn system here. Yeah. Glad you're here today. Yeah. I got a couple of supplements listed on here. One of them that I want to make sure I point out, other than Spanish black radish, my favorite, is the Ovatrophin PMG and the Ovex products. Ovatrophin PMG is long-term support for ovaries. Ovex is something we can use real quick if there's a problem with the ovaries. It's faster acting. We use it shorter term. There was a young lady who was coming to see me, and every other month she got really intense acne at the chin strap area. We applied Ovex P, one of these supplements, and it took just 2 months before she stopped having that acne surge every other month. Pretty cool stuff. I put her on the Ovatrophin after the fact to make sure we could maintain those improvements. Questions on ovaries? Cool, let's keep rolling. Breast tissue. Breasts are composed of various tissues, including skin, milk ducts, lymph, and vascular tissues. These tissues are sensitive to hormonal fluctuations and heart health. Many of the nutrients used by breast tissue are also used by the liver and the heart. So whenever I'm talking to clients about breast tissue health, I try to bring it back to this idea. She's just excited about hearing about breast tissue health. It's all good. I think when I was 9 months old, I was probably excited about it too, but just because I was hungry. Okay.
You can relate right
Yep. All right. Whenever we're talking about breast tissue health, first thing I bring up is that hormones have this huge influence on how we feel about everything breast tissue wise. That's why we work on liver stuff often for the sake of breast tissue health. But it's skin, it's milk ducts, it's the lymph tissue, it's the circulatory tissue. There's a lot we can learn about what's going on in a woman's body by paying attention to anything symptomatically with breasts. Okay? I think vitamin E is critical for breast tissue health. But again, there's another PMG. This is mammary PMG. And that is the proteins and the minerals needed for ideal breast health. I use it with a lot of mamas that are having trouble with breastfeeding, especially when we see, is it thrush? Yeah. When that comes up, that's one of my favorite things to add in. And if we have a history of clogged milk ducts when we're breastfeeding, this is one of the great things that I use to help clean that up. Questions about breast health? Cool. We'll keep going. Next one, vaginal health. There are a number of issues that can affect vaginal health. pH balance is a primary driver of both health and dysfunction. To support a healthy pH balance from within, use products that support healthy acidification. Remember, many body parts require acidification: stomach, lungs, gut, kidneys, etc. Often, vaginal pH will be sacrificed for supporting the pH of another area. Separate from that, healthy bacteria is another way the vagina self-regulates and maintains optimal functioning. In many cases, probiotic suppositories are the best way to ensure probiotics make their way to the vagina. So I want to point out this pH thing, and then I want to talk about the bacterial thing. All right, so I listed what I most commonly see messes with vaginal pH. All right, so we want some slight acidification vaginally. We also want it going on inside of the kidneys, There's parts of the gut where that should be happening. The lungs need some acidification. Our stomach needs acidification. All right, pop quiz. It's a pretty simple pop quiz. Don't worry. You're probably all going to pass. If the pH in your kidneys is off and your kidneys can't excrete waste, that is more dangerous than if your vaginal pH is off and you're uncomfortable. True or false? True, because if your kidneys don't get rid of junk, you can die from that. You can go septic. You can have toxin buildup. It can be a potentially fatal issue, okay? If the pH in your vaginal canal is off, you just might be uncomfortable. You just might be more prone to bacterial vaginosis, some kind of infection affecting the vagina. But if your kidneys go offline, or if your gut goes offline, if your lungs stop working, that's a way bigger issue for your body. So your body will say, you know what? This is not as important. I'm taking that off the board because I have to have the kidneys functioning and I have to breathe. I have to digest food to make sure I get nutrients to stay alive. So often with clients, their body is lacking the nutrients to maintain the healthy pH. And the body says, I got to cut corners somewhere. It's going to be for vaginal health. Does that make sense?
True.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, when you say gut and stomach, is gut supposed to be like intestines?
Intestines.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. When I say gut, I mean intestines. When I mean stomach, I mean the organ that sits up here, not stomach. Yeah. Thank you. The bacterial issue. So I don't know if people know this. We all have about 2.5 pounds of bacteria inside of our gut. We have about a half pound to a pound on our skin. It's supposed to be there. Don't worry, it's supposed to be there. Okay? When we take something like a probiotic, and there are plenty of good probiotics out there, when we take that orally, that's going to get distributed across all of our gut first, because that's the way that it's going into the body. And only if there is enough left over after going into the gut does vaginal health have a chance to get any of that. So I know a lot of ladies who have vaginal issues that are related to a lack of good bacteria. And they're like, but I take a good probiotic and I take it every day. I never miss it. And I believe them. But their whole gut gets a crack at it first. And then there's none left over. That's why I mentioned in the handout that often we're using it as a suppository, because then vaginal canal gets first crack at getting that good bacteria. It's not the craziest thing that we do. It is absolutely critical. I have one of them listed here that I really like. It's called lactic acid yeast. I got a fun way to use lactic acid yeast for any pregnant lady out there. Part of pregnancy in our modern world comes with a group B strep test. To make sure that you don't have this specific kind of infection that can mess with the kiddo when you deliver the baby. If you test positive for it, you're probably going to get recommended antibiotics, and not all mamas are comfortable with that. So what you can do is take these lactic acid yeast wafers, take them orally so that it's getting distributed through your whole body, but also use it as a vaginal suppository at bedtime. And that will help populate the vaginal canal with the good bacteria that will fight the group B strep. That makes sense? We're getting like site specific with our probiotic therapy. We're delivering it straight to where it's needed. When we're using those lactic acid yeast wafers, some mornings you'll wake up and there will be no evidence of it left in your body whatsoever. There'll be nothing there. Other mornings you'll wake up and almost the entire wafer will still be there. Don't worry. Your body will take from it what it needs on a given day. Every day will not be the same outcome. Your body will ebb and flow with its needs. It is pretty interesting. Like, what is the body doing? Very smart. It's also 40 to 60 trillion cells, so I won't pretend that like I'm going to figure what every single body part is always doing every day. It's a lot to keep tabs on. And then another one that I really like, it's called Zymex. This is pro-acid support, so the pH support, and it's for the intestines, the vaginal canal, and even the urethra. I use this a lot with ladies with recurring UTIs. Zymex by Standard Process. It's like a miracle worker for recurring UTIs. Questions on vaginal health? All right, cool. We'll keep going. All right, now we're out of the realm of lady-specific parts. Oh, and all my Zoom people, I'm going to lose you in just a few minutes here. Thank you for being here. All right, I want to talk about liver. Liver is one of the most important organs in the body for hormonal health. Issues related to puberty, PMS, and menopause often stem from the need for liver nourishment. And while the liver does not make very much hormone, it is responsible for balancing levels of various hormones inside of the blood. All right, so our liver should not be rectangular shaped, but for the sake of this, I'm going to make it a rectangle. If your liver is a rectangular shape, I'm really concerned about you. All right. Every day, your thyroid is making hormones, and your pancreas is making hormones. Your adrenal glands are making hormones. Your ovaries are making hormones. If you're a fella, it's your testicles. What else is doing this? Your hypothalamus. We got all these different body parts. Your uterus is making hormones. Fellas, it's prostate. And every one of them is sending these hormones out into our bloodstream. And eventually they all pass through the liver to stay in the bloodstream, or sometimes what the liver does is says, hey, thanks ovaries, today you gave me 2 pounds of hormones, but actually the hormones you made, the rest of the body only needs 1 pound of those hormones. So I'm the liver, I'm going to hold back a pound and send it to the bowel for removal. We're going to send it to the toilet. You made 2 pounds, I only need 1 pound today, thanks for doing that. That wouldn't be that big of a deal. But all these body parts are making hormones throughout the day. And the liver is responsible for determining how much of that hormone needs to stay in circulation all day. And your liver has other jobs beyond hormones. Your liver is not just there to balance hormone levels. So we want to make sure we take care of the liver, because even if your thyroid wasn't dealing with fragrances and was perfectly making hormones, your liver might still have to regulate the amount that's coming out of that. Does that make sense? Yeah. Liver is a busy organ. It's way more than just a booze filter. Yeah. When it comes to the liver, there's tons of stuff that can help. I really like something called glycine. We naturally get it from taking collagen. So I recommend eating bone broth all the time, taking collagen, taking gelatin. Another one of those PMGs, this is liver-specific proteins and minerals. You can use milk thistle. I'm very picky about what milk thistle people use. There's a milk thistle in this product called Livco that I love. It's pure, there's no junk in it. It's my beloved Spanish black radishes here again. And then zinc. Zinc is really important for the liver. Nutrients like zinc, we used to naturally get higher levels of zinc from the foods that we eat. And in our modern world, the foods do not contain the same levels that Grandma and Grandpa used to get from their foods. And that's why I recommend some degree of zinc supplementation for liver health. Questions on the liver? Cool. Keep going, we'll go to thyroid. Thyroid.
Anything true about the
Yeah.
gallbladder when it relates to the liver?
Absolutely.
If there's anything to add to that.
Absolutely. So when we're talking about the gallbladder, my favorite analogy for the gallbladder is if the liver is Batman, the gallbladder is Robin. Okay? If the liver is Starsky, the gallbladder is Hutch. Okay? It's a duo. Not one without the other. The gallbladder is designed to hold one of the products that the liver makes, which is called bile. Bile helps us digest fat. It lubricates our intestines. It's really good for our gut. If the liver is stressed out enough, the toxicity or the issue in the liver will ultimately be passed through the gallbladder to make its way to the intestines for removal. So whatever your liver is dealing with, your gallbladder will eventually have to deal with also. The way we help that is making sure the bile, the liquid the liver makes, that the gallbladder stores, is nice and thin, so it flows nice and easy. And then it doesn't get hung up in there. It can just, liver can process stuff, the gallbladder can send it to the colon, we can put it in the toilet and be done with it. Most important foods for gallbladder function, it's that collagen or bone broth again, and it's beets. Beets are incredible for your liver and gallbladder. Standard Process makes a bunch of supplements that have beets in them. I use them all the time with people to make sure that we have nice thin bile. Comes up a lot. A lot of people who have indigestion, it's because their gallbladder is making thick bile. And that just doesn't work as well. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, if you want to, there's a long list of beet-containing supplements from Standard Process. There's a bunch of options.
Beet root or beet greens?
Yes, thank you. Beetroot or beet greens? Both. Absolutely both. Yeah. Beetroot are really good for you. They're pretty easy to cook. The green tops, pound for pound, have dramatically more nutrients. Yeah.
I have one more question to add.
Yeah.
You mentioned puberty, so someone
Yeah.
that's pre-puberty, how
Yeah.
to support that, the liver, what would you recommend?
Absolutely. So some of the things under liver to help a prepubescent woman, absolutely. Girl, woman, whatever, you know what I mean. Spanish black radish is my number one. There's a product by Standard Process called Livaplex. It's Livaplex. It's actually 6 different Standard Process supplements for the liver all blended together. It has zinc in it. It has Spanish black radish in it. It's got all sorts of nutrients. It has beets in it. That's usually what I'm using when a young lady gets to like 11, 12. I'm trying to incorporate Livaplex into her program because I know her body's going to need it in the immediate future. Yeah. And that also helps because we're getting 6 different supplements in one. Most 10, 11, 12-year-olds don't want to take a bunch of pills. Just keeps it simpler. Good. All right, thyroid. This is easily one of the most talked about glands in the body. And at the same time, it's one of the most commonly undernourished glands in the body. In order to improve thyroid health, the liver and pituitary function must be addressed. These 3 body parts work in concert and rely on one another for various functions. Our thyroid gland makes a hormone that is called T4. You've probably heard of that. Maybe you've had your doctor run your T4 levels on blood work before. When your body makes T4, it gets sent through your bloodstream and eventually it makes its way over to your liver, where your liver uses a mineral called selenium to turn T4 into T3. And at first that looks like it does less because the number is smaller. It's concentrated. T3 at the cellular level has way more influence on your body than T4 has. Our liver has to function the right way for that conversion to take place. In front of the thyroid making the T4, we need the pituitary gland to signal the thyroid to make T4. You probably had your TSH level checked. TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. And just like the name implies, your brain, your pituitary, makes this to tell your thyroid to make your T4. After the thyroid makes the T4, the liver can make it more potent. So when we're talking about thyroid health, and any provider only runs the TSH level, that is selling it all short. The TSH is only telling us how much your brain is telling your thyroid to get to work. I have an analogy for this. The TSH is the parent of the teenager saying, go clean your room. Okay? A really good TSH level, just so you know, is right around 1. That's a really great TSH level, right around 1. It can be as low as 0.5. It can be as high as 1.5. But right around 1 is kind of a sweet spot. Because that's like the parent telling the teenager one time to clean your room. Okay? The outcome of that should be a good T4 level, because one time the parent said clean the room and the teenager crushed it. The laundry's in the basket. The nightstand is clear of the 3 half-filled water cups. The floor got vacuumed. The ceiling fan got dusted. This is amazing. Okay? That's a good T4 level. And the outcome of that is when the clean room is shown to the parent, to the other parent, let's say, they go, great, you cleaned your room, you can go out with your friends, here's $10, go have a good time. It's that kind of thing. So we want the TSH to be right around 1, because that means when the brain says thyroid, get to work, the thyroid goes, yes.
I have a question. When you have hyperthyroidism, what does that do to your T4 levels?
Very good question. So when we're talking about hyper or hypothyroidism, at some point in this cascade, somebody isn't pulling their weight. I've seen it for a bunch of different reasons. Sometimes, did you say hyper?
Yeah, hyper.
Yeah, hyper.
The one that goes faster.
Yeah. So the thyroid is trying to make too much T4, and that can be because it's not being converted well enough into T3. T4 is less potent, and the thyroid is aware of the feedback it's getting from the body. The body's asking for more and more hormone, because the weak stuff is what's going out, not the strong stuff. That's one of the reasons for that. So the thyroid cranks up its production. It says, okay, I don't have the potency I need, I'll give you more quantity. That makes sense? Other thyroid questions come to mind.
Hypo, just the opposite.
Often, hypothyroidism can be because the pituitary isn't signaling the right way. So the thyroid is like there. Have you ever worked for a lousy boss? It's kind of like that. You're like, I'm here and I'm ready to do a good job, and the boss gives you lousy directions. You're limited in how good of a job you can do. Yeah. So if the pituitary in the brain is not signaling the thyroid the right way, even if the thyroid is ready to totally kick butt on the work, it can't. It's not being given directions. It's not, here's your hours, here's what I want you to accomplish, here's your objectives. Yeah, you're welcome. And it is totally possible to ebb and flow back and forth between the two, depending on what's going on with your body. Good. Good. That's thyroid. All right, and then I have this nice list here for everybody watching this on YouTube after the fact. You can contact us. That's why we have our contact info on the board for every presentation we give here in the classroom. I got a list of 5 different examples: general women's health combo, vaginal health focus combo, breast health focus, uterus and ovary focus, and then PMS. It's all typed up. If you want a copy, let us know. We're happy to share this info. We want everybody to have this info. With that, I'll open the floor to just general questions about women's health.
So example 1 would just be a very good protocol for someone to be on for generous, like liver health kind of category that kind of covers everything. Is that?
Good question. So example 1 is the general one. It has the Spanish black radish in it and the 4-til-B12. Both are really good for liver, but they also help uterus. They also give vitamin E, so that's ovary stuff.
Okay.
So that's kind of like casting a wide net. It's not really focused on any one area. It's the widest net.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. 4-til-B12 is also my secret weapon for thinning hair. Yep. It's also one of the least expensive standard process supplements, pill for pill, which is kind of cool. Makes it easy to use it, or easier to use it. Four till B12. Yeah. It's a good one. For the ladies or the fellas, it's a good one.
Can you just make a comment on why that is about this particular supplement?
I would love to. I like to dork out about 4-til-B12.
All right.
I can talk about why that's so good. 4-til B12's main ingredient is something called tillandsia. It's also known as Spanish moss or hanging moss. If you've ever been to Georgia or Florida, you see it hanging from the trees. Yeah. And when you take that moss and you juice it down and you get the nutrient out of it, it's very rich in a particular type of vitamin E. That type of vitamin E is a precursor to a lot of different hormones. So what I see again and again when we're talking about hormone production in the body is the body part, whichever body part, pituitary, thyroid, adrenals, ovaries, whatever, they want to make the hormone. They are lacking the ingredients to make it. I want to bake a cake and I don't have eggs. Right? I want to make cookies and I don't have chocolate chips. What 4-til B12 does is it gives the nutrients needed so that the hormones can be produced in the first place. So often with thinning hair, what I see is that the body wants to grow hair, right? That's why so many of us have hair up here, but it doesn't have the ingredients to actually signal that and facilitate that. The body wants to have the hair, it just doesn't have the ingredients. I want to bake the cake, I don't have eggs. You get 4-til B12 and all of a sudden I got eggs. All right, get out the baking pan, preheat the oven, let's go, we're making cake. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm really glad all of you are here today. Our Zoom people are gone. I'll have to contact them after the fact and thank them for being here. As questions come up, our contact info is up here. We always want to hear from you. Questions, comments, concerns, all of it. And please grab one of the bars and any more kombucha that you want on the way out. You're welcome.